Welcome to Talk Party Live. We chopping it up, parlaying, catching vibes. D-Max your host and she's talking about the subjects that people won't even touch on, but she ain't afraid to speak on. Hey, we talking about marriages, relationships, dating, mental health, and them badass preachers' kids. Yo, domestic violence and adoption, and does the LGBTQ have heaven as an option? Woo. Right here on Talk Party Live with your host D-Mac. Talk Party Live. We talking, we partying, we getting live. Talk Party Live.
Welcome back to another episode of Talk Party Live, where we talk, we party, and we get live. Today, however, we're dealing with a very, very serious subject, and it's becoming an epidemic across America. And it is the subject of domestic violence. And domestic violence has no race, has no gender, has no age, has no sexuality. It just is what it is. Violence from a domestic partner or an intimate partner within the same home. I want to introduce my two guests, my cousin in love and blood, Paula Garrison. She will share a bit of her story a little bit later on about her survival of domestic violence. She is not a victim, she is a survivor. And we also have here with us Miss Erica Mariah. She is a domestic violence advocate, also a survivor. And she is also running for Detroit City Council District 7. She's a candidate for Detroit City Council District 7. So I want to appreciate you all taking your time to come out and share with us and just discuss this very, very serious and concerning topic. I wanted to share a few statistics that I found alarming. This is from the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. 20 people per minute. That's 10 million people are physically abused. 1 in 4 women are abused by an intimate partner. 1 in 10 women are raped, yes, by an intimate partner. Here in Michigan, 2020, 36.1% of women were victims of domestic violence. 57,018 incidents of domestic violence have been reported in the state of Michigan in the year 2020. 44 of those resulted in death, domestic violence murders. This is an epidemic. We're dealing with the pandemic of sorts, but this is an epidemic of epic proportions. I want to take a moment and have each of our guests just share a little bit about your story. Tell us as much as you're comfortable sharing your story. Nobody can tell your story like you. I don't want to tell it. I want you to tell it. So, sure. Who would like to go first? All right, Erica.
Well, my name is Erica Murray, and I am a national domestic violence advocate, sexual assault advocate, and I do work locally here in Detroit. I have been doing this domestic violence work for almost 10 years, 9 years this year. I am the executive director of Supreme Transitions, nonprofit organization, and we assist community members in becoming totally self-sufficient in 5 core ways. I wear several hats, so I'm not going to go through the whole speech.
Right.
But we also have an arm in my nonprofit called I Am Evidence that specifically assists and give resources to survivors, or however you identify a victim or survivor of violence.
Weren't you a big proponent or advocate for the whole rape kit processing?
We did have a huge rape kit backlog here in Detroit. We had over 11,490 abandoned rape kits.
Wow.
That were left in a police warehouse. I had one of them. And I did assist our Wayne County prosecutor, Kim Worthy, on her task force called AA 490 Challenge to raise the money to get our kids tested. Because the bulk of those were of women of color, right? And so who else would be helping us than us?
Right.
So it was a bunch of female leaders and volunteers that came together, and we raised money, and that's where you see the video with me and Erykah Badu,
Right.
where she donated a portion of her proceeds to that cause, and all of our kids are now tested.
Okay.
Prosecuting them is something different because
Right.
now you have a choice.
Statute. Is there a statute of
They
limitation?
did lift it here for
Okay.
these particular
Okay.
kits so that if people wanted to go forward, they
Okay.
could. I have also worked with the Detroit 9th Precinct. To add to your stats, the Detroit 9th Precinct is on the east side,
Okay.
48205 off Gratiot. They have the highest domestic violence calls in the city of Detroit. 80% of their calls are domestic violence, and 50% of those end in police fatalities.
Ooh, really?
Yes.
The police officer responding.
Yes.
Wow.
Because you just never know
What's
what
on the
that
other side of that
circumstance
door?
will be.
Yeah.
We've seen recently in the news where an officer, he wasn't on that precinct, but he didn't go. Remember when that happened? He held back when they said it was a DV call because he said he was afraid he may lose his life. And so that's some things that we have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Domestic violence intersects so many different pieces of our community. You know, like I was sharing with your cousin, I'm also nationally advocating on the intersection of domestic violence and the child welfare system.
Okay.
So if a person is abused by their intimate partner and the police is called, now child welfare is called and you are being re-victimized after being abused because now you take my child from me because I was abused by someone that I didn't have any control over that, right? So domestic violence is real. It's a lot of work. Working in the precinct, I've assisted over 600 people learn how to write their PPOs, get them processed and approved.
Okay.
Also assisted them with getting the money to pay for serving them because there is a fee.
Okay.
You know, and I think that's an issue. You know, because again, now poverty, you're being re-victimized for being victimized, right?
Right.
And so it's a lot of different layers to this thing. So over time and doing community advocacy and having these opportunities to stand in front of our community, I've learned that policy advocacy is what's needed.
Absolutely.
And will trickle down to get the things that we need on that base level. So when we talk about the supportive services, also, did you know we only have one domestic violence shelter here in Detroit? Only one.
Is that Genesis House?
Interim.
Okay.
We only have one. Only one.
In the
And
whole,
it's in the city.
and then we have an 80 percentile
Okay.
zip code.
And so I also assisted the 9th Precinct. At the time, the commander there was Commander Samia Russell. And she wanted to do something bold and different for Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Okay.
So we came up with something called the Partnership to Peace. Because again, domestic violence is layered. It's very layered. And so we came up with the Partnership to Peace. And what it is bridging the gap between law enforcement, service providers, and survivors all in one room.
Okay.
So the first year we held a brunch at Wayne State, and it was so powerful because it's triggering for our community a lot of times to see the police in full uniform. And if you have lost a loved one to domestic violence and the police you felt did not help you, or you were the victim or survivor, and you felt the police did not help you, when you see that uniform, you're like, whoa, was I here for something else? Like, what is happening here? So it was a weird dynamic. And then we also saw fully uniformed officers hugging and praying for survivors. And the bridging, it was so beautiful because we were all able to tell our survivors' stories. Male officers, female officers, regardless to their orientation, told and shared their stories of why they joined the police department. And a lot of it was because I saw domestic violence when I was growing up in my
I
household.
was going to ask you, where did your passion come from? Why is this your purpose? Usually, typically, your misery
Yeah.
becomes your ministry.
I ain't never heard it that way, D-Mac. But, but
mean,
that's
it's
good.
true.
That'll preach.
Ministry is born out of your
It is
personal
some type of
trauma and
pain, yeah.
experiences.
I can see that.
That's how you can relate to a particular class or group of people. So the person that has been sexually abused may be able to identify, or a child that's been sexually abused may be able to identify with that person better than just somebody that has intellectual or book sense.
That were that
You
part.
understand? So
you
your
can read a good book,
experience-
but you don't really have
You
no
understand what I'm
experience.
saying? Your experience having gone through this
Yeah.
has given you a passion
Yeah.
for these
So,
circumstances.
interestingly enough,
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that I was a survivor of domestic violence, and many people don't. And
You were saying
and that's the reality.
Mhm.
Many people do not consider their circumstances to be domestic violence.
right.
It ain't as bad as Ike and Tina. You know what I mean? So I was a party promoter.
Okay.
You know, we threw a lot of parties. We had a lot of fun. I'm very good at everything that I do, and so pursuing how to grow my business, I went to a seminar,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't care that it was for survivors of violence
Okay.
because they could buy tickets,
Right.
right?
Wow.
so I went and I sat at this table, and I thought I was gonna see people with black eyes and busted lips, and they were all beautiful women.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the women recognized me from the parties that I threw. You know, I would throw a lot of different kinds of parties.
Mhm.
And so different kinds of women, and whatever class you want to call them,
Mhm.
would come up to me while I was there and say, "Can you pray for me?" So that was weird. You asking me to pray for you. So I'm going in the hallway. I'm missing the whole seminar, going in the hallway one by one, praying for people. And then when I finally got to sit down, the woman who is now my mentor, who was on the stage, her name is Sheila Umi Hankins. She's been doing this work for over 40, 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
She asked everyone in this room at Northwest Activity Center why you're here and what you want to gain from being at this conference. No one talked about the name of their business. No one said what they want to gain. People were saying, "Hi, my name is, and I'm a survivor of." And I'm sitting here looking at this sea of people.
Mm-hmm.
And when it got to me, I stood up and I said, "My name is Erica Murray, and I'm a survivor of," and it just hit me like a ton of
The
bricks.
reality.
And I said, "I'm a survivor of domestic violence." I didn't say sexual assault.
Right.
I said domestic violence, homelessness, you know, lack of education, poverty. Like I just started naming all of the different things that I
Right.
had been overcoming,
Mhm.
right, and fighting for in
Mhm.
Detroit. And the lady just came over to me and hugged me, and she said, "You know what, I'm gonna help you." And so as I started to assist her and learn more about what is domestic violence, then
Right.
I could fluently say, "I'm a survivor of domestic violence."
Okay.
But I'm a survivor specifically of teen dating domestic violence.
Mm.
So fighting in high school
Mm-hmm.
with my oldest child's father.
Okay.
And then the next boyfriend was emotional abuse. And then the next one was financial abuse. And then the sexual abuse. You know, I just kept attracting abusers.
Okay.
Because I wasn't aware of what I was attracting because of my ill inside, right? And that's my testimony. That doesn't mean that's what happens
What
for
do you
other
mean by your ill inside?
the things that I had not dealt with about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had extremely high self-esteem, right? But I still had some insecurities due to things that I saw, you know, growing up, being one girl in a family full of men.
Okay.
You know, seeing a lot of different things, seeing my dad abuse my mom,
Okay.
you know, physically abuse my mom. Just a lot of things that I saw caused some trauma. And I never dealt with it because I didn't know it was there. So I can remember being in a conference that I was holding for a clergy on domestic violence and just saying, "Damn, that's me." Like we describing me.
Right.
So as I have been learning and serving, I've been growing and healing.
And that's the thing, though, because had we been educated, had those before us told us what to look for,
Yes.
and did not accept it in silence,
Yes.
then we perhaps may have had a awareness of the early signs before
Yes.
it became something so severe.
And that's partially what brings me to where I am.
Right.
at
And
this
we're gonna
moment.
I'm gonna have you share your story on the second segment.
Okay.
Only in the interest of time.
I talk a lot, I'm sorry.
No, that's why we have two segments. It's absolutely
Okay.
fine. This
It's all
is
right.
just it's what it is.
This is a talk party.
But it's
It's a tough
interesting that you
part.
say that part too, because
Yes.
I have several daughters.
Okay.
Ones I've birthed and their friends, right?
Mhm.
Several daughters.
Mhm.
I'm everybody's mom. And they all go with me.
Mhm.
I take them everywhere with
To
me.
your events.
Every
and all that.
event, every
Beautiful.
training, every meeting.
Mhm.
They be all sitting around and
Mhm.
eating, and you think they're not listening.
So they gonna see the signs early. They gonna be like, my baby.
They've been
No,
doing this for a long
Yeah.
time. But the thing is this:
Mhm.
you may know it, like you said, you read a good book,
Yeah.
but until it happens to you.
Yes.
So I have had some of my daughters
Okay. Experience.
experience domestic violence, and they are young adults.
Mm.
My oldest daughter is 20. My little one will be 14 this year.
Okay.
And so the 20-year-olds, right?
Mhm.
Some of them have experienced it and did not know that they were experiencing it.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting here looking out like I will beat your ass. Can we cuss? I will
Right.
beat your ass.
yeah, this-
like
this-
I'm gonna be
this
the
is-
abuser.
this is
And
You
my
know?
question is if it's coming to our young ladies, who's giving it to these young men that are bringing it to our young
It's
ladies?
the
as well?
examples. You know, a
So
lot of this
who's-
is learned behavior.
That's what I'm saying.
You
Who's
know?
making our young men think that this is okay?
Right.
But then on the flip side, there are men who are also abused.
Absolutely.
Because I assist everybody.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've
believe
had
you.
men walk into the police station and be afraid, and we had to have a code word, just say, I'm here to see Erica, right? And they sit there and they don't want to tell me, well, because I wouldn't have sex with her, she bust out my window, she climbed through my window.
Mhm.
I'm with
No,
you.
these are domestic violence circumstances.
1 in 9
I've seen
men.
this.
Okay?
I've-
One
Come on, Miss
in
Sassy,
9 men are
I've
victims
seen
of intimate partner violence. I was talking to a client of mine, and he was like, man, he said, well, I need y'all to talk about the men. The men
In real
that being
life.
abused. Because he said,
Because they are.
he said, man, I got this partner, his girl, he showed up with a black eye, and he was like, man, it didn't hurt. He said, what you mean it didn't hurt? Nigga, your eyes
But it was
swollen
black.
shut.
It's black.
But
It was
that's
black.
still abuse.
It's abuse.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
You can't. It can't just. That's why I said in the beginning, it's not gender
And so-
specific.
That's
With
what I
the
try to
stats that
tell
you
my students
read,
as well at school.
They say her, like they identify more with the woman because there aren't as many men that will fill out those forms.
Mhm.
That will check those
Exactly.
surveys.
That's why I asked him. I said, "Did he file a police report?" He was like, "No, he ain't gonna do that." And because there's a shame attached to it
And
for
the
men.
thing
Like
is-
It's a stigma.
yeah,
It's a
like,
shame.
oh, she abused you. Look at you. You 6
You
foot,
6
she's
foot so
5'2".
and so. You
Man,
know,
that didn't hurt you.
and it did hurt you.
Right.
I looked at one guy, he had cuts. This lady cut him. He had been, he just got out the hospital. And he was like, I just want to tell somebody.
Mhm.
He said, I didn't want to really press charges. He said, because if I hit her back, he said, I'm going to jail for a long time.
Yes.
Because they automatically assume the man is the aggressor,
And it's
Yeah.
sad.
and it's not always the case, especially in 1 in 9 of them.
Yeah, it's
I've
sad.
had to teach
And I done
my
met
young
one of
ladies.
them.
Yeah.
And
And
now-
Keep your
I've
hands to
been
yourself
in.
because all men don't have the same restraint.
But
Exactly.
baby, that's not
Don't
love.
hit.
Because see, just like the young man may have learned that if I hit you, that's love.
Mhm.
A girl may have learned if I hit you, that's love.
It starts
That's how I
early.
show my love.
You
know,
You already
things like that.
coming into a situation with an unhealthy perspective
Yeah,
of what
of
love
love.
is, and so
And
you-
showing him
so I was
affection.
like, well, my daddy beat me, but he hugged me, and told me he loved me afterwards.
Oh, we
you know
all
what I'm
heard
saying?
I only whoop you because
I
I
Because
love
I
you.
love you, and so it's like,
Yeah.
but if I don't
Yeah.
feel like he don't love me, if he don't flip out on me,
I
I feel
heard
like he
that.
don't love me. It's like
It's a
what do they call it?
confusion.
It's a typology. It's a, you know what I
It's
mean?
hypocrisy. It's the hypocrisy
Yeah.
for me.
You
Straight
know?
up. That's it. It's
So,
hypocrisy.
all right, well, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to have Miss Paula share with us her story of survival as much as she's comfortable sharing, no pressure.
Yeah.
And then we're going to open it up for a couple questions from our audience members,
Cool beans.
and then we're going to wrap it up.
Welcome to Talk Party Live.
All right, we're going to have our esteemed guest, Sister Paula, share with us her story of awareness, survival, and even the struggle to leave. and even the struggle to stay gone.
Yes.
It's not as easy as people think. I hear people always like, oh my God, I don't understand. Why do they stay? Why do people stay? You know,
Just leave.
you should say, why she don't just leave?
But go where?
You know, and go where? With what resources? I've been isolated from all my support. I don't have anything. Where am I supposed to go? I might die in the process. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So before I just
Exactly.
get on with my rant, I'm gonna have Paula share with us her story of surviving domestic violence.
I love it.
Well, I just want to share. I'm a 52-year-old woman, been grown and in the streets since I was about 19. You know my history does, you know. When I left, I had to leave. And I lived on the streets till, I want to say, till I was pillow to post for quite some time.
On the streets?
Yeah,
Like, on the streets.
on the streets.
Wow.
Yeah, on the streets. I did have my own place after a while, and I lived from house to house when I left my mom's house.
Okay.
I left from my mother's house. I moved in with the guy, and that got violent one night, and I knew that I couldn't stay there because it was not going to work. Because I couldn't do it. I knew I couldn't take that ass whooping. I couldn't take it. So I knew to leave.
It
at the
started
time.
with violence? Like, it wasn't an escalation of, like, attitude and then he just decided one day, I'm just gonna be violent this day?
He decided he was gonna beat my ass when I told him I was pregnant. So that's when the violence started. And I knew I couldn't accept that, and I moved out.
Okay.
And that was fairly easy at the time because it was sort of new.
Okay.
And life went on for probably about till I was about 26, and I met my daughter's father. So he was an older man when I met him. I was 26. He was 40. And we got along very well. Everything was perfect for a long, long time. And we managed to move in. He pretty much did everything that I required. I got some self-esteem from somewhere. Even though I had been through everything I had been through to the point to where I met him, I required to be courted. He courted me. I wanted to be dated. He dated me.
Okay.
I wanted to be loved. He acted in love on every occasion. I wanted a home. He provided a home. You know, he met all of those requirements that I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is what I want. He gave me what I wanted. I wanted a man with a job. Oh, yeah, he had a job. Yeah. I wanted a man that let me do what I needed to do to make the home run smoothly. Yeah.
So on paper,
we
you
got
checked
that.
off all the lists, off the check mark.
Check. I'm saying a mature man who appeared to be mature. He appeared to be everything that I said, okay, God, this is what I desire, and you gave me what I desire. And, you know, he was different from everyone else. He appeared to be totally different. So I'm thinking, okay, we're going along with this life thing. We're going along with this togetherness thing, and it's going just fine. And, you know, the years started to roll back because it was easy. It was easy. And it was very easy because he gave me the luxury to be who I was easily.
Okay.
I mean, I was able to further my education. I was able to, we had some struggles, of course. Everybody had struggles, but we were together. You know, he was there physically. So life goes on. We have our daughter. And that is when things started to change.
Now, this is the same man you left after the first violent incident.
No,
This is different.
this is
Okay.
a totally different
Okay.
man.
Okay.
Totally different man.
Okay.
Long story short,
Mm-hmm.
life started to change because we had a daughter who was born at 24 weeks.
Mm.
And my attention that I used to pour into him had to turn
Mm.
and focus on
Sickly child.
the survival of our child.
Mm-hmm.
And that survival, I mean, she was in the NICU she was born in August. She was not supposed to be born until November.
Mm.
So her first 5 years were primarily spent in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when everything started to turn. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did what I had to do as a mother because I desired a family.
Right.
That is what I desired. That's what he told me he desired. And I'm thinking we're meeting in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you want. This is what I want. So long story short, we're moving right along.
Mm-hmm.
Baby in the hospital regularly. I had to do what I had to do to make sure my daughter survived.
Right.
He's fulfilling his role as a father and a provider.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect life. But we had little things going on behind the scenes mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Games being played and me finding out little things that worked at me mentally. There was very little physical abuse at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Very little physical abuse. And as time went on, you know, I had this uneasiness about myself because it just wasn't feeling right. That vibe was not there.
Mm-hmm.
So as time went on, long 23 years short, I had no idea I was being abused.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had no idea I was being abused emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
financially. I was physically abused.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, it got physical. And I had no idea it was abuse until I actually decided to go back to college. And I
Okay.
took a psychology class.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when my list came out then.
Mm.
We got that cycle of abuse wheel that came
The
out
power
in this
and control
class.
wheel.
Yeah, the power and control wheel, and here we go. Isolation.
Yeah.
Do they want to control where you go? Here we go. I mean, I went,
Intimidation.
pardon me?
Intimidation.
Yeah,
The coercion.
intimidation,
Mhm.
coercion. You know the wheel.
Yeah.
You
I
tell
wrote
me
it down
this.
'cause I want to make sure I brought it back up.
Come on, just tell me everything that you know about all that cycle of abuse, and I can just tell you, yeah, he did this, he did that, he did this.
And
I
it
can
wasn't
go
until you took that class
man,
that you realized,
cousin,
dog.
I'm like, I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're in trouble.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea because this is what I wanted. I'm thinking like, what about my family?
Yeah.
What do I wanted a family. This is not what
But
they
at what cost, though?
right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, you know, oh,
Or
it's
did
gonna,
I cause this?
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What did I do?
And that's part of the whole battered women syndrome because
Yeah.
the mentality
Yes.
is that it's something that I'm doing that's causing
That's
him
exactly
to
where it
abuse.
was.
And I think
You know what
that
I'm saying?
women naturally feel like because we're fixers, right?
That's
Mhm.
exactly
We're
where I was.
cultivators.
If only I just stop
How do
aggravating
I
him.
fix
If I,
this?
if
Yeah.
I just
Right.
not, maybe if I don't, you know, if I
I
wash
wash
the
the
dishes right,
yeah.
or if
That's
I
what I said.
make
On
the
time.
right lunch
Mhm.
today.
That's
Yeah.
it.
You
Or
know
if
what
I
I'm saying?
dress sexier.
Or if I'm just quiet, but then
Or-
you get beat up because you're too quiet. What you thinking
Right.
about?
What's wrong with you?
Right.
What's on your mind?
Yeah.
Now you don't want to talk.
Oh, you ain't talking to me
Yeah.
now?
So talk to
What
us
you think
real-
you better than me today?
Yeah.
You know, it's that mental.
Yeah.
Narcissist.
So talk
Say
to
what
us
about-
about
Narcissistic people.
Oh yeah. When I found
But-
out what a narcissist was,
That part.
I finally found out what that was.
But I heard you talking, and I wrote my note was love bombing.
Oh yeah.
When you met him, he love bombed you.
They're charmers.
them.
Abusers are
He was
charmers.
like
wait.
everything you want. What you need? What you
Anything
want? Here you go.
want.
Here you go, baby.
Anything
Yeah.
you want, I got it, baby. That's how he was.
Was he Jamaican?
It seemed like it.
Right. Like, okay,
Seemed
Stella,
like it.
got her in the room, you back.
And number one reason that people do stay is because of finance.
It was good.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
he was everything.
When did it turn to physical violence, though?
It turned physical when I started saying no. When I started saying, look, let me tell you what, this ain't right. I don't like what you did back there. I was a yes, baby, yes, baby, yes, baby. You want it like this, daddy. You know, that's how it was for, and I was okay with that. But then when I started saying, I don't like this, and my body started telling me I didn't like it either, because it's like, okay, I'm stuffing my feelings and my weight just ballooned out of control, and everything around me, it's like I started eating, I started having emotional breakdowns just so I could maintain what I thought I had, but it was never real anyway. But yeah.
So tell us about the exit. When did you get to the place where you were like, listen, there's a realization, wait a minute, hold up, this ain't right, I'm being abused. Then there has to come a time where you start making a decision, right? Tell us about the decision, and then when you went forward into planning your exit.
I'm thinking, okay, let's try therapy. I was met with a no. Let's try moving. I was met with a, let's move. Let's move here. I mean, I tried everything, I thought. So my exit strategy started in 2009, and that was my last strategy. I'm like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. It's me or him. There's no us from this point forward in my mind. So it got real heavy one night, and I said, I can't do it. And I immediately looked for a shelter. And as you stated, there are no shelters in this area. So my daughter and I ended up in Pontiac. Thank God I had transportation. And that didn't work out. My daughter couldn't handle it, and she begged me to go back home. So that was number one. That was the first time we left, and I let her go back. She begged me to go back home, and then I'm like, oh wow, scary. I cannot let her be there, and I'm not there.
Right. That's a statement in and of itself. The conditions of the shelter.
Oh man, what?
Would rather you go back to an abuser?
Oh,
that's
my
a
God.
statement.
That's a whole other show.
It is. I'm sorry. That just hit me.
I was
like,
there.
Y'all saved
You said the spark went like what?
I was like,
You
whoa.
went to safety.
You know what I'm saying?
And I don't want to be there.
Let me
Right.
tell you what. A shelter is another form of abuse as
Yes,
well.
And especially for women of color.
Yes.
And that's the problem when you go outside of communities where you know it's not run by black and brown people. They treat us like they are in charge, and we have to be compliant, and we have to be submissive. And we have to, you know, if
So it's just a perpetuation.
it's still
It's
abuse.
a perpetuation
Jesus.
of control.
The power and control dynamics.
To
Yes.
a T.
Yep.
And
So you
I
go from
couldn't
one
put
sense
myself
of being
around
controlled
that.
to
To
another
another.
sense
I
of
felt
being
it.
controlled.
I don't know what prison is like, but I felt very
I'm telling
close.
you, when I went
Very
in shelter,
close.
I was tired. I didn't know how to catch a bus. I caught several buses with a toddler. You know what I'm saying? With a toddler. By the time I got to the shelter, I went to Cox. By the time I got to the shelter on Peterborough and Woodward, scared out my brain,
Right.
you know, and they wanted me to do an intake immediately. I just want to take a shower and go to sleep.
Right.
But you're not compliant.
Right.
If you don't do it, we say you got to do it
Yeah.
right now.
You want to stay here? Jump through these hoops.
But can I just take a shower?
Can I wash?
Can I
think?
relax?
Can I
eat?
figure out my life for 5 minutes?
Can I get my baby together?
Right. Can I see if my baby need a diaper?
That part.
Do she need something to eat? What my baby need?
So from the point of realization to the point of actualization to the point of deciding I got to get out of this, how long of a process was that?
So 2009 was the first time I left. That lasted about 29 days. I went back because I couldn't have my baby there and me be somewhere else and not know what's going on with my daughter and her not, you know, be in the position. So that
And
was
then they use the kids.
to a T. To a T.
Oh, yeah.
The children
Anything
have
that's
no
close to
control
your
over
heart,
that.
you know, they. Yeah.
Yes. So we went back. I went back to a house that I had bought to leave him. That he decided. That was another story. I bought a house so I could leave him. He convinced me that we were going to be a family this time. So he was in that house, and I went back to that house. I said, okay, we're going to be a family. We're going to be a family. I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to give it one last good try. One last good try. That lasted probably about 2 years until I decided, you know what? This ain't going to work. I'm just going to lose it all. I'm going to give it all up. I'm going to give it all up. So we went from there to the house that I bought for him so he could leave me the fuck alone. So he could leave me the fuck alone. I'm like, you know, this
I'll make it easy for you to leave, bro.
this your household,
Right.
leave me the fuck alone, okay? That's just me keeping it. And I'm not rich, I'm not all that, but I said, you over here, I got you a house and some land. Leave me the fuck alone, okay?
Today.
So we went over there, and that's where I left his ass. I stayed over there for a minute.
What year was that?
2014. I left
So
him
we live
in
in
2014.
2009 to 24. So it's
Yeah.
not that easy. That's
It is
a
not.
that's a
There's
5-year strategic plan.
He wouldn't leave me alone unless he had something.
And another statistic is a survivor is 7 times more likely to die when they go back.
Yes,
So
I
you
read
increased your chances of dying every time you went back when you left.
Because
and
what
went
it
back.
does is
Yeah.
it gives him
Okay.
the sense of, oh, I got her.
Power.
Yeah.
Oh, I got her. I can do
And I
anything
take
I
her
want
out
to
here.
with her. She's
Yeah.
gonna come back.
Power.
All right, we're gonna
Yeah.
open this up. We got a couple audience members that have a couple questions, so we're gonna go ahead and open this up and have them ask our esteemed guests a couple questions.
Esteemed.
Yes, you guys are esteemed. You don't understand this is like,
One of the many questions I have is how are you able, because there's multiple ways that domestic violence can be viewed, right? We got mental, physical, and emotional, financial. What are ways because that we can show like women can identify if they're victims of this type of abuse? Because I think sometimes maybe I have been an abuser by the things I can say to somebody if I feel like I feel attacked. So how can you identify if you're being an abuser, or what's the way that I can identify that if I was being abused? Because I've been in a relationship where somebody and tried to like make me feel lower than myself, or you don't put your hands on me, and I feel like I defended myself, and I've been to the point where I feel like, well, I'm not a victim, because I don't feel like me feeling like I'm a victim is you whooping my ass and me not defending myself. No, you touch me, I touch you back. I've been raised around family members that I watched them be abused. And no man has ever like physically struck me, but it was to a point where we're fighting. So how are women, because a lot of girls don't even know how to identify whether or not if they are a victim of this.
I think you said a lot, and I appreciate you being honest and transparent. And I heard a few questions. How do I identify if I'm being abused, and how do I identify if I'm the abuser? The power and control wheel, and how do we help others identify, right? So I frequently, on my social media page, my personal page, will post the power and control wheel. With a hashtag like pay attention, you know, this could be you or whatever the case. So when you look at that power and control wheel, it's broken down, it's a whole circle, and it's broken down into pie pieces. And it's labeled with different things like intimidation and coercion, and it tells you if your partner does this, and it explains it in some bullets. So one, everybody's not in a position mentally or maturity wise like you are, to say, how can I do a self-assessment, right? Because if you look at that one wheel, you can look at yourself introspectively and say, do I do this to my intimate partner? If I'm doing this to my intimate partner, I'm an abuser. If this is happening to me, I'm being abused.
And don't
Right.
mistake defending yourself physically
Right.
for you being an abuser as well. Because a lot of times we think because I fought back and the nigga didn't get the best of me, I didn't get abused.
Right.
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That is
That's
not
true.
the
That's
case.
true.
You're defending yourself against abuse.
And I think it just needs more conversations.
You have a right.
Yeah. So more conversations, more public talks, and
Self-awareness is key.
self-awareness is key. And I think that it needs to be discussed for as little as they come to as old as they come.
This is what is
This is
acceptable.
what
And
this
not
is.
just discussed, but modeled.
Yeah.
I can tell
It's
my
hard to
son don't
model,
put
though.
your hands on a woman
Right.
and then he see me beating up my girlfriend.
Right.
It's hard
You
to
know what I'm
model.
saying?
It's hard to model. If, like, I'm single. So how am I going to show that every day in my household? My kids don't see a man in and out of my house.
And
You follow what I'm
that's
saying?
the model. To me, that's the model.
But-
they
but-
shouldn't see a man every day in and out of your house until he's
At
that
some point,
man.
they should have seen
Until
one.
he's
At
that
least
man.
one. You feel me?
But then,
Well, that's the thing,
no, not necessarily, because when
But-
we come from histories of abuse, we're so protective of our kids to where we don't even want them to be just subjected to nothing. So I'm not even
I
going to
feel you on that,
introduce
too.
my children to you until I know you about to be that guy. And so there's a
I mean,
level
I've
of
introduced them to something, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it is, in my opinion, it's not always about modeling a
okay,
thing.
okay.
It's about the education
Education.
and being able, whether you are able to show it to them, you're able to
Somebody.
show it to
I
them
got you.
outside of your
I
house
got
and say,
you.
that's it right there.
Because sometimes, and that's profound. Because even in your case,
Yeah.
you weren't able to model it for some years,
Yeah.
right?
But the other part that I picked up on, and it goes into your question also, is we were raised in a different time.
Right.
Where
Silence was golden.
we didn't talk. Your parents didn't talk. Your
Oh,
grandparents
my
didn't
God.
talk. Me and my children talk about everything.
Everything. My son be like,
With
"Mom."
examples. I be like,
I
hey,
do
look.
my best.
And then after I tell them what's going on, I be like, because you know over there at so-and-so house, you peep that? That's what I'm talking. Like, I'll give them a real life
Every chance I
scenario.
get.
That's why I say it don't have to be you that model, but you should be able to show them that's the thing
Right.
that I'm talking about.
Right. Brian, did you have any questions?
I was just gonna just have you, because I know you all spoke on, children that are in the home, in the same situation, just to speak to like the collateral damage of the domestic violence situation when that's your intimate partner, but maybe your child or other family member who's living in the home is actually taking the brunt of the domestic violence. He doesn't want to be, I'm not hitting my lady, but he's also taking it out on your son, or he's being mean to your child. As you see what I'm saying, they're taking the brunt of your abuse. It's not that no one's being abused. He's not hitting you, but he's mean to your son. He's down. You see what I'm saying? And I've seen because I know a situation personally where her son was taking all of that. He wasn't hitting her, but he was literally being horrible
I'm sure
to
he
the
was
boy
abusing her,
because
too.
of that.
Yeah,
You
he
see
was
what I'm
most definitely
saying?
abusing
Yeah, I mean, like he wasn't physically putting his hands on her, but her
And so, and I
son
don't
was
want
getting
people-
these
It's not just
overly
physical abuse.
abusive
And that's what I was about to say.
whoopings and things like that. And I'm like,
Domestic
he's really
violence
taking
is
the brunt
not
of the situation.
Domestic violence is broad.
Hitting is the culmination of a lot of other underlying domestic violence. Like, I can manipulate you emotionally, I can control you
Yes.
mentally, I can damage and destroy your whole everything and self-image and self-concept. And by the time I get you so broken down,
Yeah.
now I can beat your ass.
So, and
And
that's
so-
all.
And you take
I'm
it.
sorry.
And
To
you
answer-
take it
you
because
think
you
that's
feel
okay?
worthless.
So the answer would, in my opinion, Brian, he is abusing her because she sees what you see that's happening to her child, and she's either afraid to say something,
Right.
or she doesn't know how to escape. She don't know how to fix it. I'm terrified to tell this boy's daddy, this baby's daddy,
There's gonna be some violence.
because now I'm gonna be the problem when it all hits the fan.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of different things. And so the only thing that I would suggest in a circumstance like that is that you slide information in, resources. And if they are watching, there is a free resource for domestic violence survivors called Kids Talk.
Mm-hmm.
Kids Talk is a service that will
Interview your child.
counsel your child, give them free therapy services. If you don't have transportation, they will pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
They have lunch kits available. They got toys. They got all different ways to help you and your child get healing. And so that person, if they identify that thing happening to their child, they can go and talk to someone and share what they're seeing, and they don't even have to necessarily out their abuser, but just say, I need my child to get some services because I see, he's a little introverted, something's wrong, or whatever the case. There are free resources. And my nonprofit, Supreme Transitions,
Amen.
can be reached at area code 313-355-3498, and all we do is hear your circumstances and give leads and referrals to wraparound services to help you.
Amen.
Okay, that's beautiful.
So do you believe in your situation that you were dealing with a narcissist? Because you were saying like he gave you the energy, everything you wanted in a man that he was providing, and then later he became to this abuser.
He became a fucking gremlin. But yes, now looking back,
I want to toast to that.
I can laugh.
You got water tossed over and just turn into a gremlin.
But yeah, just being able to get to my peaceful place out of everything I've been through in my life, and then coming back and being able to go back around and reflect on the time, and being able to actually have that time to reflect and through therapy, I will recommend a great therapist to anyone. I don't care about the stigma of what your friends think. It's all about you and what's going on in your head and the correct therapist. Without my therapist, I wouldn't be here right now.
I also
But anyway, I believe he was a narcissist. I believe he was sent straight from Satan to destroy
Don't they
me.
always be?
And the devil
No.
or whoever,
Torment, torture. It's a torture.
Satan says,
Hell.
Yeah.
It's a hell, a mental hell that you live in when you're dealing with a narcissist, because they
Because
give
he
you the energy
creates
that you give them.
I also just wanted to say before your time wraps is when we talk about same-sex relationships,
That's a higher percentage of domestic violence.
extremely, and the perception is that the person that presents more masculine is the abuser, and that is
That
not
is
true.
not always the case.
That is not always
the
true.
case.
It's usually the other way around, in my experience of advocating and assisting survivors. And so I don't want anyone who may be viewing this show to think just like
It's a male
female thing. No,
That's why I say it's not gender specific.
at all.
It's the energy.
It is.
It's the
Definitely
mental
the
health
energy.
It's
So,
that energy.
This has been a
That's all
very
it takes.
powerful discussion. I
Yes, it
appreciate
has.
both of your transparency and just willing to share your success stories
Yes.
so that other people can see that there is life after abuse.
Absolutely.
Yes, there it is.
Look, I am evidence.
She is evidence. She is evidence. I am evidence, but this ain't about me today.
Yes.
And I want to close, and either one of you can give this final thought. To any of these young ladies, young men, and we're not going to exclude you men because we know it happens.
Yes, it does.
If you know that this person is actively engaged in a domestic violence situation, what advice could you give to them in terms of exiting in the most safe way possible?
Safety planning is huge.
Mhm.
And in a safety plan, there is a component called the exit strategy and an exit plan. If someone, I just want to encourage people, if someone approaches you to share with you, don't judge, don't make any responses, just listen and take notes, because even though they may be sharing with you, they may not be ready to leave. And the bottom line is, survivors of violence are the experts in their own circumstances.
Absolutely.
And that has to be respected.
Absolutely.
When they say I can leave, but it's gotta be on June 14, 2027,
Right.
they know exactly what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna
Thank
wholeheartedly
y'all
agree
so
with
much.
you, Erica.
Thank
The
you
people
so
that
much.
I've spoken to, just be a listening ear and a assistance to in the best way that you can. When it comes to exiting, listen and help. That's the best thing you can do.
And if you're in the abused, leave in the safest way possible.
And don't ever say just leave.
You
Don't do
gotta
that.
plan for
Just leave. Don't. It's no such thing as just leave. Ain't no such thing as just leave. That's an insult to somebody that's
Spontaneous decisions tend to end up in catastrophe.
Yes.
Pre-planning ends up in success
At
most
least
often.
you have a great chance of success.
Success or survival.
Yes.
You know, a lot of women. The higher statistic is that a lot of women die in their effort of leaving
Yes.
without a plan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so that is very important to plan. Seek out some resources, put aside some money, build yourself a support system.
Make a
and
copy
get
of
out.
your driver's license.
All
See,
of
it's things like that, all the way down to that people don't realize you have
All
to do.
that.
Copies of your birth
Yes.
certificates, your kids' information.
Yes.
Cheers, ladies. It's been
Cheers.
absolutely
Talk Party
wonderful.
Live.
It's been a
Talk
great
Party Live in the
It's been
building.
a laugh.
Money on the flow every time my phone ring. In the spot serving fiends, fuck your Spotify streams. Chrome heart jeans with the crosses on the leg.